When my husband and I announced my pregnancy, my sister-in-law's attempt to embarrass me at his party completely backfired, ultimately landing her in jail and leading to her divorce. I've been married to Harry for 7 years, and I love everything about our life together, except for his sister, Kayla. From the beginning, she has been a constant source of negativity. When I first met her, I actually liked her, but that feeling didn't last long. Over time, I realized she was manipulative, toxic, and always stirring up drama. Understanding her personality, I've done my best to stay on her good side, but she has always tried to control Harry's love life. When he was 17, she pressured him into dating her best friend, and when that relationship ended, she tried to set him up with another friend when he was 23. When he refused, she threw a tantrum, running to their parents and demanding that Harry only date someone she approved of. Thankfully, his parents didn't take her seriously. When I entered the picture, his parents were welcoming and supportive. Kayla, however, was cold from the start. She constantly brought up Harry's exes in my presence, talking about how great they were and suggesting he reconnect with them. Even Harry found it odd and asked her to stop, but she persisted. If we were invited to a family dinner, she would conveniently run into an ex that same day and invite them to join. Though she doesn't follow me on social media, she obsessively watches my Instagram stories. She's often the first viewer, and if a man comments on my photos, she rushes to Harry to complain that I'm being inappropriate. We usually just laugh at her paranoia. Her interference escalated when Harry and I moved in together. She told him I had too many flaws and that she could find him a better match. That hurt because I had always been kind to her, but things got worse when we got engaged. When we announced our engagement, everyone celebrated, except Kayla. She sat quietly, then suddenly stormed out. Later, she called Harry, sobbing and yelling that she should have been the first to know. She even messaged me afterward, saying I needed to treat him a certain way because she had always been the only woman in his life. The message was unsettling, and I left her on scene, knowing it would only make her angrier. From then on, she ignored me in person but still insisted on being involved in the wedding. She tagged along for dress shopping, the bridal shower, everything, despite my future mother-in-law and fiancé calling her out. She openly criticized every decision I made, belittling my taste and saying this was why she never wanted her brother to marry me. That was my breaking point. I finally snapped and told her she was no longer welcome at the wedding. She was stunned, as if she never expected me to stand up for myself. Even my mother-in-law backed me up, which enraged her further. Later, she called Harry, demanding he had control of me. Instead, he told her she was banned from attending unless she apologized. She begrudgingly sent me a half-hearted apology, which I ignored. I was too exhausted from wedding planning to entertain her drama. On the wedding day, she showed up anyway, dressed in a black, floor-length gown with a veil, as if she were mourning. Everyone else followed the pastel dress code, making her outfit even more ridiculous. She spent the entire event telling guests how devastated she was to lose her brother. Harry confronted her, but she claimed she had the right to wear whatever she wanted and accused me of being controlling. Eventually, his parents had enough and kicked her out. It was humiliating, but at least she was gone. After that, I kept my distance. When our son, Nate, was born, I made it clear that she was not allowed near him. She protested, but my in-laws fully supported my decision. 2 years earlier, Kayla had suffered a miscarriage with her then-boyfriend, Jamie. It was a painful time for everyone, and as new parents, Harry and I felt sympathy for her. We decided to let her back into our lives, allowing her to bond with Nate. At first, she seemed to have changed. She was sweet to him and even acted civil toward me. But it didn't last. She soon fell back into her old ways, constantly complaining about how unfair life was, blaming others for her misfortunes, and never taking responsibility for anything. She thrived on playing the victim and never acknowledged her faults. This year, she got engaged and sent out wedding invitations to everyone except us. Considering that our relationship had seemingly improved, Harry was surprised. When we confronted her, she smugly told us that I wasn't welcome because I would cause a disturbance at her wedding. The irony was laughable. I called Kayla to ask why she thought I would cause any issues at her wedding. She explained that after her dramatic behavior at our wedding, she was concerned I might show up dressed in black as a form of retaliation, which is why she didn't want me there. I wasted no time and told Harry how manipulative she was being. Furious, Harry spoke to his parents and made the decision that neither they nor he would attend her wedding, nor would they contribute financially. This sent Kayla into tears, and she immediately blamed me for starting the whole mess. Her husband, Jamie, scolded her, telling her she had no right to blame me when she'd openly admitted to her mistakes. Kayla, however, dismissed it, saying I should just get over it since our wedding was already behind us. Later, she contacted me to apologize, asking for forgiveness as her in-laws were still refusing to pay for her wedding. Despite everything, I knew Kayla had a way of being incredibly charming and persuasive when she wanted something. Wanting to put the past behind us, I decided to forgive her. Her wedding to Jamie went off without a hitch, and we all attended. It was a nice event, and we enjoyed ourselves. But not even 6 months later, Kayla showed up at our doorstep, complaining that her marriage was falling apart. For a few days, we let her stay with us, as she vented endlessly about Jamie. They were struggling to conceive, and Kayla blamed him entirely for everything. When I spoke with her, she insisted that the issue was entirely Jamie's fault, but I began to notice her obsession with our life. For example, every morning before work, I'd visit the gym. On days when I was running late, I'd bring my work clothes, finish my workout, shower, and change into my office attire. Kayla noticed this routine and began asking me intrusive questions, why I was bathing at home or why I needed to visit the gym. I explained that I liked to keep my weight in check and preferred not to go to the office all sweaty. She nodded, licking her lips, which only added to my discomfort. One afternoon, as we were having lunch, my mother-in-law was discussing a friend of hers who was divorcing her husband after discovering his infidelity. Kayla abruptly interrupted to ask if Harry and I had signed a prenup before getting married. We paused, staring at her in surprise, unsure how to respond. Harry quickly explained that we didn't feel the need for one, as both of us did well financially. Kayla snorted and began lecturing us about how Harry could be blindsided by a cheating spouse at any moment. Her comments irritated me, so I asked her to clarify what exactly she meant. She went further, claiming that I must be meeting someone, pointing to the fact that I always carried a change of clothes. She then stated, as Harry's sister, it was her duty to warn him. Her words stunned me. Just then, my in-laws arrived, overhearing the conversation and stepping in to stop Kayla from continuing with her baseless accusations. But Kayla insisted she was only looking out for her brother. She then crossed a line, joking if our son, Nate, was really Harry's son, since he didn't look like him. I saw the raw fury on Harry's face. He had never been this angry before. He stared at Kayla, then said, "You're not a mother, and you never will be. Your child would be better off in paradise than with someone like you." Kayla looked at him, speechless. As my in-laws watched in stunned silence, Harry stormed away, ranting about how she was a shameless person with nothing to offer, while Jamie worked non-stop, and Kayla just sat around doing nothing. Kayla broke into tears, expecting sympathy, but her husband said nothing. Harry's outburst had left her speechless. Eventually, she got up and ran to the bathroom. I reached out to calm Harry, and my mother-in-law followed, understanding just how exhausting Kayla could be. I was somewhat relieved that Harry had stood up for me so publicly. He apologized to Jamie but completely ignored Kayla once he calmed down. After that, we cut off contact with her entirely. She'd gone too far this time, and her actions were starting to take a toll on us. We hadn't spoken to her for nearly a year, and things were peaceful. 2 months ago, I found out I was pregnant again, an unexpected blessing. We decided to announce it on Harry's birthday during a party his parents were throwing in his honor, with close friends and relatives invited. When Kayla showed up, we were taken aback. She approached Harry, hugged him, and apologized for their last conversation, saying how much she missed him. She then took my hand and apologized to me as well. She told me she had been attending therapy and realized how inappropriate her behavior had been. Though I didn't agree with her apology, I nodded politely, wanting to avoid creating any tension at the party. My in-laws checked in with us afterward, offering to step in if we felt uncomfortable. However, Harry insisted on not making a scene. We decided to let the situation go. It seemed odd, though, because SIL was laughing and socializing with everyone during the celebration. She had mentioned going to therapy, so I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt, even though her overly optimistic attitude was out of character. Harry spoke emotionally about how he considered himself the luckiest man alive. thankful for another year with me. As we prepared to cut the cake, his words made me blush, and I felt the same joy I did when we first started dating all those years ago. I appreciated how deeply in love we still were. Then, Harry and I made our big announcement. Smiling, we told everyone that we were expecting a baby. For a moment, there was silence before everyone erupted in joy. My mother rushed to hug me, tears streaming down her face. SIL saluted Harry and me, and tears filled his eyes too. Everyone eagerly asked if we had chosen baby names. They were genuinely happy for us. SIL was the only one who stood out, her mood suddenly shifting. She appeared stunned and irritated, and without saying much, she turned away from us. I thought maybe she just needed some time to process the news, but I couldn't help feeling concerned that she might cause another scene. I was distracted by conversations with other guests, but when I got up to help my in-laws carry lunch, Rick and my parents insisted I stay seated. As I settled back, SIL approached, her face bright with excitement. She offered to bring me dinner herself, eager to celebrate my pregnancy. She handed me a dish and said she wanted to make up for all the nasty things she had said in the past. I politely accepted. Just as I was about to dig into the meal, I noticed that shrimp had been added to the plate. I'm allergic to shrimp, so I was shocked that SIL had even given it to me. Disappointed, I shook my head and stood up to get my own meal. Jamie approached shortly after to wish me well on the pregnancy. After some small talk, he noticed I hadn't been eating. He asked why, and I explained about the shrimp. He reassured me not to worry, took the dish from me, and said he could eat it. He seemed fine with it, so I was relieved. However, just a few minutes later, Jamie started gagging and vomiting. Concerned, everyone stopped eating and watched him stumble out of his seat. Harry and Kayla rushed over to him. Jamie pointed at his plate and then at his throat. We all watched in horror as he collapsed, unconscious. Kayla quickly examined the dish, and her face went pale. She looked at me with wide eyes and asked, "Did you give my husband that plate?" I nodded, and soon after, someone called an ambulance. Jamie was rushed to the hospital, and Kayla was beside herself, sobbing and glaring at me. Later, we learned that Jamie had been poisoned. The shock of hearing that nearly made me faint. Knowing that the dish originally belonged to me, I couldn't shake the fear that SIL had deliberately poisoned not only Jamie but also me and my unborn child. Harry, SIL, and my parents were in the dark about what had happened. No one knew what had caused Jamie's sudden collapse. The police were called in to gather evidence. Jamie is still recovering at the hospital as I write this. Kayla stayed with him overnight. Relatives have been reaching out to ask what happened, and my husband and I have been fielding constant calls. SIL and FIL, shaken by the events, are now staying at our house, afraid to return to their own. No one knows exactly what happened, but the realization that the plate had been given to me by Kayla makes me feel deeply scared. If this turns into an investigation, I'll have to tell the authorities the truth, but right now, I'm terrified of what SIL could do next. I don't want her anywhere near me or my children. It's clear she has no boundaries, and I'm afraid she could harm us again. I feel guilty for handing Jamie my plate, even though it was entirely by accident. Update 1. Wow. Thank you to everyone for the overwhelming number of responses. I never expected this many comments in just a few hours. I wrote the post earlier with shaking hands, and I've been unable to sleep. Although many people are reassuring me that I'm not responsible for what happened with the plate, I can't shake the feeling that I should have done something differently. I should have simply discarded the dish. I don't know why I let him take it from me. I keep thinking about Jamie's future and the fact that something's terribly wrong. Harry has been staying close to me, but he doesn't know everything I suspect about his sister. He thinks I'm just worried, and I agree with one comment saying I should talk to everyone, but I'm not sure they'll believe me. SIL and FIL have security cameras around the house, as the celebration took place in their backyard. I'm confident they can check the footage and confirm that Kayla gave me the plate. I plan to speak with everyone tonight. Update 2. After talking with Harry, SIL, and FIL, I'm grateful to have such understanding in-laws. They've been staying with us, and I sat down with them during dinner to share something important. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the situation. I recounted the events of the birthday party, explaining how SIL had given me the plate with shrimp, and how Jamie had unknowingly eaten it. The shock on everyone's faces mirrored my own. SIL and FIL exchanged concerned looks, and Harry's expression quickly shifted from confusion to anger. I expressed my concerns about SIL's past behavior and the possibility that she had been trying to hurt me and my baby. MIL, always practical, immediately suggested we check the security footage given the seriousness of the situation. FIL nodded in agreement, though he was visibly shaken. Harry remained silent, processing the news. After reviewing the footage, the truth was undeniable. The video clearly showed Kayla handing me the poison plate, and what happened afterward. The evidence was irrefutable. As the truth sank in, emotions ran high. Harry was furious, and MIL and FIL were horrified. We were all stunned by the extent to which SIL went to cause a disturbance. In shock, we tried to understand why she would act like this. Given the seriousness of the situation, my in-laws decided to forward the evidence to the police. Following this, Jamie became the one who had to press charges against SIL. FIL and my husband are planning to visit him after he recovers. I can't stop thinking about how I let Jamie have my poison plate. I'm constantly anxious about him, unable to eat or sleep. I'll keep you all updated as things progress. Update 3. Alright, everyone, here's the update at last. It's been a month since my last post, and I'm still processing everything. First off, SIL was detained after the police saw the evidence. My in-laws handed over the recording, and Kayla didn't even deny it. She immediately confessed and started crying. Jamie was as shocked as the rest of us when my husband approached him about what had happened. He assured Jamie that he would always be part of our family, no matter what. My husband advised him to press charges against his sister, given how malicious her actions were. Once Jamie recovered, he not only pressed charges but also filed for divorce. Kayla, in a desperate plea for forgiveness, called my MIL and FIL. She confessed she was pregnant herself and tried to manipulate them by begging them to help her for the sake of her granddaughter. FIL was firm, advising her that she needed to take responsibility for her actions. He said they were done coddling her. While MIL is heartbroken about what's happening to her daughter, she knows that Kayla's actions can't be excused. The police confirmed that Kayla had intentionally tampered with the meal meant for me, which ultimately caused harm to Jamie. She's been charged with several offenses, including attempted manslaughter, food tampering, and causing harm. Despite her pleas for mercy, Kayla's court hearing is approaching, and she won't be able to avoid the consequences this time. As for my son and me, we're doing okay. To everyone asking, my son has no idea what happened. Harry and I have discussed telling him the truth, though it will be a difficult conversation, but it's something we must do to ensure he understands and stays safe. I've also been getting regular ultrasounds every 2 weeks, as recommended by my doctor. We're choosing to keep the baby's gender a surprise, so we won't be finding out beforehand. Since everything happened, my parents have been extra protective, encouraging me to get psychological support. They're concerned about the toll this is taking on my mental well-being during the pregnancy. I agree with them, and though I seem okay, outwardly, I've developed a strong aversion to eating outside food, especially anything I didn't prepare myself. Hopefully, with Harry's support, I can overcome this fear. Update 4. It's been 8 months since my last post, and I'm here with the final update. Kayla is currently in prison. She was found guilty of the charges, though I never attended the court hearings. My in-laws did, and they told me that Kayla admitted to years of jealousy toward me. She revealed that she'd always dreamed of one of her best friends marrying my husband. When he started dating me, she couldn't handle it and tried to undermine me at every turn. Her jealousy intensified when we announced our pregnancy at Harry's birthday party. She had planned to reveal her pregnancy too, but when she saw that we stole her spotlight, she became enraged. In her hormonal fury, she laced my meal with rat poison, intending for me to end up in the hospital, but not to harm the baby. She claimed that the poisoning was justified because I'd unknowingly poisoned her husband by offering him my plate. While she pleaded for leniency, the judge didn't buy her claims. She was sentenced to prison, where she'll remain for a long time. Jamie, now free from his toxic marriage, has divorced her. We've continued to keep in touch with him, and he's been a part of our family celebrations. When I apologized to him for handing him the poisoned plate, he reassured me it wasn't my fault. I cried, feeling the weight of the guilt I had carried, but hearing his words of forgiveness was a relief. As for Harry and me, we're blessed with a beautiful baby daughter. Our son, Nate, is thrilled to be a big brother, and watching them connect has been a true source of joy. Our parents and in-laws have been incredibly supportive, guiding us as we navigate this new chapter.